Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Sergio Pereyra. I'm a marriage and family therapist and professor, and I want to share with you a video about 10 things everyone should know about depression. I would also like to take this opportunity to invite you guys to subscribe to my channel, where I'm going to be sharing videos about mental health topics, counsel and advice and tips for marriages, for families, and for parenting as well. Okay, the first thing that you should know is that there's a difference between feeling depressed and actually struggling with depression. So feeling depressed, anybody can feel sad or feel down at a certain time for any given reason, but actually struggling with depression is different. This is a DSM diagnosis where you actually have a mental illness. And the DSM just means that that's the diagnostic tool that we use as clinicians to actually assess and provide a diagnosis of depression. So instead of going online and trying to diagnose yourself with depression, I would actually recommend that you go to a professional who's actually qualified to diagnose you with depression if you have it. Number 2, depression comes in many forms. So lots of people experience depression differently. There's usually a list of symptoms that people struggle with, and those include things like loss of appetite, feeling down, feeling hopeless, having a loss of interest in things that normally interest you, having interruptions in sleep patterns, so you could actually either sleep too much, or you might struggle to fall asleep, or you might struggle to get out of bed, struggle with motivation. You might actually have changes in your appetite, so loss of appetite, or actually weight gain or weight loss. Feelings of agitation or mood swings, and even negative thoughts, or you can even struggle with thoughts of suicide or wanting to harm yourself. Number 3, depression is a mood disorder, not a behavioral disorder. This means that it's not a problem that you can actually just change yourself. It's not like you can just do things and then you won't be depressed. It's actually a mood disorder, so this is affecting how you feel. So it's not as easy as just like going and doing something different. So it's not really a behavioral disorder. Number 4, depression is not bereavement. So it's normal to feel sad, especially after a loss. And it's actually healthy to give yourself some time to mourn. So give yourself time to feel sad, to cry, and that's healthy. So if you are going through bereavement, it doesn't mean that you have depression, but it can actually spark a depressive episode. So you just have to be careful. You have to, again, give yourself time to grieve. And if you need help, there are professionals that can help you with the grief process, so it doesn't necessarily turn into depression. Number 5, depression is not in your head, but it is in your brain. So it's not some made-up thing that you just are struggling with that, people think, oh, just stop thinking like that and you'll feel better. It is a real thing. And it actually is in your brain too. So there's studies that they've done with people with depression, and they've found changes or differences in the hippocampus, which is actually in charge of memory recall and even emotional management. And there's also changes or differences also in the prefrontal cortex, which is your command center, but it also is in charge of your cognitive emotional capabilities. So that connection between your cognitive processes and your emotions. And there's also changes in gray matter and white matter with people with depression, but those are just a few things. And there's brain chemicals that also affect this. So people that have depression usually have lower neurotransmitters. And these are chemicals in your brain that your brain needs that help with communication. So the three main ones that are affected by depression are dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. And dopamine is the pleasure chemical in your brain, and so those people that struggle with depression have lower levels of dopamine in their brain. Norepinephrine is the chemical that is in charge of your fight or flight and adrenaline, and people also have lower levels of norepinephrine who struggle with depression. And then serotonin is the last one, and same thing, lower levels of serotonin, which is the brain chemical that makes you feel good, that makes you feel relaxed. So there are actually things that you can do, activities that you can do to increase these brain chemicals, especially dopamine and serotonin. So things that you can do to, to have fun. Although dopamine is a little bit different because you might struggle with things that, before it was fun and now it's not as fun. So focusing more on maybe the serotonin, and also endorphins. So endorphins are brain chemicals that you get when you exercise. So it's a great way to actually help you feel good, and it's one of the best things that you can do for depression. Oxytocin is the other one. It's a brain chemical that you have with connection, and it makes you feel good when you're connected with somebody. So a really good way to help fight depression too is to connect more with others. This can be significant other, parents, children, siblings, friends, anybody. But these are things that you can also do to help change some of that brain functioning. Number 6, beware of misinformation about antidepressants. So some people will say, oh, all antidepressants are bad, don't take any drugs. That's not necessarily the smartest thing to do. And it's not also smart to just say, yeah, I'll take whatever either. So, you should be aware of what the side effects are with any depression medication. There's lots of types of depression medication as well. So it's good to be informed of what the causes are. Sometimes you might have to take something for a while, and if it's not helping, then you switch to different medication. But typically there's 3 types or 3 different levels of depression. So there's mild forms of depression, there's moderate levels of depression, and there's severe depression. If you have a mild case of depression, you might be able to take care of that or manage that with just some of these self-help type activities, exercise, positive talk, positive reaffirmations, going and connecting with people, all these things that you can do, and you can probably do a good job of managing it. If you have a moderate level of depression, then you probably need some help with a therapist. So going and talking, help in therapy. But if you have a severe level of depression, then you probably need therapy and medication. So you shouldn't just be close to the idea of medication, especially if you have a severe level of depression that you're struggling with. Number 7, depression can run your family, but it doesn't have to run your life. So there are studies that show that depression can run in the family, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a parent that struggles with depression, you're automatically going to struggle with depression either. And you don't have to let it run your life. You can still do things. You can be active. You can be proactive in trying to manage it. Even if you're going to therapy or taking medication, one of the lies that depression tells you is that you can just stay in your bed or do nothing. So this do nothingness of depression is one of the more serious side effects or symptoms of depression. And so actually going and doing something, being proactive, is one of the best things that you can do about depression. Number 8, you are not your depression. So you might struggle with depression, but it doesn't have to define you. You can still have a full and fulfilling life and do things, have a productive career, and have a happy family life, and do things and enjoy connection and other activities with loved ones. And so even if you're struggling with depression, it doesn't have to mean that that's what you are. So yeah, you're more than your depression. Number 9, depression is not the end, or it doesn't have to be. doesn't have to be your destiny. If you're struggling with depression, you might have thoughts of ending your life, or just not wanting to be here, or not wanting to struggle with it anymore. And that's understandable. But you have people that care for you. You have people that need you, that are counting on you. So please choose to stay, choose to live. And if you're struggling with these thoughts, then talk to somebody. It might seem scary, but it's actually more likely for you not to commit suicide if you actually talk about it more. And if you're actually talking with somebody else about some of these ideas, they can help you through them. So there's, hotlines that can help too with all this. But please, choose to stay. And last but not least, you are not alone. Depression is a mental illness that affects all people of all ages and all cultures. So we used to think that depression was only, white people that struggle with it. But now we're seeing lots of different cultures that are also struggling with depression, and even in early ages. So it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, you could struggle with depression. And you're not alone. There's lots of people that are struggling, especially right now in the COVID area where we're in isolation. So it's one of the worst things you can do with depression is, stay isolated from others. So finding other ways to connect with people, and connecting with people that might be struggling with depression like you. So finding support groups. And always, please, if you are struggling, find a professional to talk to. There are plenty of people that are willing to help. Well, I hope you were able to find some benefit in knowing about these 10 things that everyone should know about depression. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave some in the comment section down below here in this YouTube video. And I'll see you next time.